Hey there, Breakfast Club. Welcome to Monday's edition. You're with Got That Funk. Thanks for joining me. I wanted to talk a little bit about the different degrees of bigotry. It's my opinion that bigotry, no matter which kind of bigotry you're talking about, basically comes in varying degrees, from low level to sort of medium to extreme. And what I want to ask is, at what point is the bigotry a problem? Because one thing's for sure, we are never going to rid the world of bigotry and bigots. We are never going to rid the world of people with unreasonable prejudices. We can make our best attempt to make sure that people who harbor unreasonable prejudices don't act on them. And for me, that is where the line should be drawn. I want to share a little story with you. Previous to living in this flat with my roommate now, I was living in a place not far from here with a roommate who owned the house, and he was a xenophobic racist, openly so. At least at home he was. And this is where I'm going with this. Normally I would not have associated with someone like him. Had I known he was that much of a racist before I moved in, I might not have even moved into the place. But once I moved in, I was financially stuck there for quite some time, living with someone whose views and opinions I found reprehensible, to say the least. But we got along pretty well. One of the reasons we got along so well is because I've got a good sense of humor, and so does he. And I'm also pretty blunt and pretty honest, and so is he. And we had vehement disagreements constantly. I mean, for Christ's sake, if we watched the news together, we'd almost always have an argument. But we never once lost our cool at each other. We never sort of lost any respect for one another, even though we disagreed strongly about serious issues. Because he knew I couldn't change his mind, and I knew it too. And I knew that he couldn't change my mind, and he knew it too. So we sort of just agreed to disagree without ever having to say it in those words. And we got along fine because we tended to value the other aspects of each other's character. Despite the fact that I'm a weirdo hippie, he liked me anyway because he respected my integrity and my sense of humor and my honesty. And I respected him for his kindness and his generosity and his sense of humor, despite the fact that he has really, really bad opinions. Now, the thing is, my roommate would not describe himself as a racist. In fact, many times he tried to tell me that he was not a racist right before saying some seriously racist bullshit. And so when I would probe him about it, I mean, from his point of view, opinions aren't really racist. It's actions that are racist. And he swears up and down that he doesn't treat anybody any differently to their face. But he has all these opinions. And if that's true, and I have no way of knowing if it's true or not because I don't follow him around wherever he went, but if that's true, if he does not behave in a bigoted way, is his bigotry really that much of a problem? My attitude is every person's got a right to their own opinions, most especially in their own home, which I shared with him. So I wasn't about to tell him that he wasn't allowed to have those opinions in his own house. I would just tell him that I thought his opinions were wrong. I'd tell him why. He'd tell me why he thought I was foolish. And, that was pretty much the limit of our conversation. But it never caused us to fall out. It never caused us to... it never overshadowed what we saw as qualities in the other person. The fact that we disagreed about some serious issues, but we both realized they're just opinions, and there's a lot more to the other party than their opinions. Now, if we could extrapolate that out to the wider society, I think we'd be making some serious progress, because unfortunately there seems to be some overt and covert forces in the world who want to sort of homogenize sort of attitudes and opinions and so forth. And to the greatest possible degree, it's okay for us to have different opinions and to be able to express them. You should be able to feel safe expressing them openly in public without fear of abuse. By abuse, I don't necessarily mean verbal abuse, I mean actual physical abuse. Because, if you're going to be expressing strong opinions, you are going to come across people who want to express their opinions back to you quite strongly, and that's okay. Where bigotry is a problem, I think, is when people act on it. If you're not giving someone a a fair shot at a job in your company, or if you discriminate against someone as a tenant because of their ethnicity or something like that, then your bigotry is definitely a problem, because it's not just something you keep to yourself. Well, or share with people that you're close to. You know, it's something that you're doing in the world. You're being an active bigot. So, am I just being overly naive here? But I actually think there's a difference between passive bigotry and active bigotry. And I definitely would agree that active bigotry, meaning bigotry that is expressed and acted upon in the world that affects people, is almost always wrong. And, you know, we ought to do what we can do to mitigate against it. You can't ever prevent it, but you can certainly do your best to mitigate against it. But as regards passive bigotry, my attitude is, as long as I'm still free to voice my disagreement, I'm not going to sit around destroying relationships and causing animosity over differences of opinion if they aren't actually affecting the world, you know, with their opinions. You know, that's my attitude. And I wanted to talk about that because my roommate taught me an awful lot. Because despite his horrible opinions, I do think he's a genuinely decent human being on most levels. And so what I learned from that experience is you can't necessarily write someone off just because they have abhorrent opinions. You know, you need to be able to look at a person as a whole and accept that there's always going to be some aspects of more or less everybody that you're going to dislike. And whether or not you can tolerate such deep disagreements as I learned how to tolerate, that's up to each individual. I'm not saying it's something everybody has to do, but I learned an awful lot from it, because I think I'm a better person for understanding that there's more to him than his abhorrent views. And maybe if we're going to get along with people despite our serious disagreements and prejudices, maybe we have to learn to be a little bit more tolerant of things we don't want to tolerate, in order to get the intolerant people to also tolerate us. There's my 2 cents for this week. I want to hear a lively discussion in the comment section down below, and I look forward to seeing what you've all got to say. Sister Danger will be here for tomorrow's video on The Breakfast Club, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.